I, 48 male, and my wife, 44 female, have been married for 9 years. My wife teaches at a community college. I've been working for FedEx since I was 18 years old. So I've built up a nice nest egg. We live in Texas. 3 years into our marriage, my wife got into a car accident that left her with chronic back pain. The doctor prescribed oxycodone for the pain. What started as legitimate pain management turned into something darker. She'd take more pills than prescribed. Then she'd run out early and get desperate. Her oxycodone addiction was really starting to cause issues in our marriage. She'd lie about where she was going. Money would disappear from our accounts. The woman I married was becoming a drug addict. But somehow, after months of struggle and professional help, she managed to kick the habit. That was 2 years ago. I thought we'd moved past the worst of it. Life returned to normal, or so it seemed. We started doing regular date nights again to reconnect. One particular Friday evening stands out in my memory like a scar. We went bowling, something we hadn't done in years. The lanes were busy, filled with families and couples enjoying their night out. About an hour into our game, I went to the bathroom. When I came out, I saw her talking to a man near the shoe rental counter. She was laughing at something he said, touching his arm. When I got close enough, my wife introduced him as a friend of hers. He shook my hand with a smile and introduced himself. At the time, I didn't know who he was to my wife, but I would find out later. The encounter lasted maybe 5 minutes. They exchanged a few more words about people they knew. Then he left and we finished our game. I asked her how she knew him. "Oh, just from around," she said. I then interrupted her and said, "Is he someone I should be worried about?" She flat out said, "No, and don't be ridiculous." Well, something strange happened one night about 3 weeks later. I went to check our bank account to make sure my direct deposit had cleared. I noticed there was a huge chunk of money was missing from our savings. Not just a few $100s. $2,000 was gone. My wife had taken $2,000 and didn't tell me. I found her in the living room grading papers. "Where's the $2,000 from our savings?" I asked. She looked up and I saw panic flash across her face before she composed herself. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb with me." I showed her the bank statement on my phone. "That withdrawal 3 days ago. I needed it for something." "For what?" "Just something." I pressed and pressed her, asking why the hell she didn't tell me when she took out the money. This was our joint savings, money we'd both worked for. I asked her what the hell she needed the money for, and she wouldn't tell me. She kept deflecting, saying it was personal, that I was overreacting. We fought for the next hour. She started crying. Finally, backed into a corner, she told me. Apparently, the guy that I met at the bowling alley was in jail and needed to be bailed out. The friend with the handshake and a smile. He'd been arrested for assault and some other charge and couldn't make bail. I went off on her. "Why did it have to be you?" I was probably loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "Why does some random friend need you to bail him out?" She just said he didn't have anyone else who could bail him out. His family lived out of state. He'd helped her through a tough time years ago before we met. She owed him. The explanation was as thin as tissue paper. For some reason, I didn't believe her. The way she acted at the bowling alley, along with the secrecy about the money, didn't add up. I started paying closer attention to our finances after that. Every deposit, every withdrawal, every credit card charge. If she wanted to play games with our money, I'd make sure I knew about it. The trust in our marriage had cracked, and I could tell it widening with each passing day. One night, about a week after our fight over the bail money, she called around 4 p.m., said she would be grading assignments after her classes. It sounded strange because she is usually done with school by 5 at the latest, but I didn't say anything. I let it go. Something in my gut told me to verify her story. At 5 p.m., I drove to the college. The parking lot was mostly empty, just a few cars scattered around, and to my surprise, her car was there. Her red Volkswagen sat in her usual spot, so I drove back home. I didn't feel the need to call or text her since her car was already in the parking lot. She was where she said she would be. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe the whole bail money situation made me suspicious of everything. I tried to focus on other things, watched some TV, made myself a sandwich for dinner. Well, at 9 p.m., she still wasn't home. The college closes at 8. Security did rounds at 8:30. No one was supposed to be on campus after that without special permission. I drove back to the college. The parking lot was darker now, lit only by a few scattered street lights. Her car was still there. Same spot, same position. This time I called her, went to voicemail, sent a text, no response. My heart was pounding now. Was she hurt? Had something happened to her? I called two of her closest friends. Jan from her department said she hadn't seen her since lunch. Alice thought she'd gone home hours ago. Nobody knew where she was. I stopped trying to reach her after the fourth try. If she wanted to play games, I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me desperate. I went home and waited. Every passing minute felt like an hour. I kept checking my phone. Nothing. She came home a little after 2:30 in the morning. I heard her key in the lock, heard her trying to be quiet as she came in. I was sitting in a dark living room. "Where the hell have you been?" She jumped, hand on her chest. "You scared me," answered the question. "I was at school, like I told you, until 2:30 in the morning." I lost track of time. I cursed her ass out, called her every name in the book, told her she was full of shit. She stood there and took it, which made me even angrier. No defense, no explanation, just stood there looking guilty. I grabbed a pillow and blanket and stayed on the couch that night. She tried to apologize the next day, but I wasn't having it. I wouldn't even look at her. She'd made breakfast and I'd leave without eating. She tried to talk and I'd walk out of the room. I was mad for a couple of days. But then I started thinking, I wasn't raised like that. I was taught to try to work things out and fix any issues in the relationship. My parents had been married for 52 years before my dad passed. They always said communication was key. Well, that night we talked. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of tea. She told me something that floored me. The guy she bailed out of jail came by the college, but security wouldn't let him in because he wasn't a student or faculty member. She told him to come back after she was done. According to her, he wanted to talk to her. He was going through a divorce and just needed someone to talk to. "So, where were you until 2:30 in the morning?" But I told her that her car was still at the school. She said she went with him and they just went to get something to eat. She then pulled out a receipt, some diner about 20 miles away. The timestamp showed 11:47 p.m. I guessed to prove that's where she was. The receipt showed 2 meals, 2 coffees. But that still didn't explain the missing hours. The diner wasn't 3 hours away, but the sad thing is, it happened again 4 days later. Same story, staying late to grade, same pattern. When she came home this time, I didn't say anything. I had to dig to find out what was really going on. No more confrontations, no more fights. I needed evidence, not excuses. The first thing I did was pull up our phone records online. FedEx had taught me to be methodical, to track packages and deliveries with precision. Now I track my wife's communication with the same attention to detail. I went through 3 months of call logs and text records. There was one number that really stood out, 512 area code, local. She was texting and calling this guy a lot, more than her own husband. Some days there were 40, 50 texts between them. They even had long phone calls as well. I didn't try to mess with her phone or anything. She kept it password protected anyway, always face down on the nightstand. I wanted to find out what she was doing silently. No confrontations, no accusations, just facts. Over the next 2 weeks, I checked our bank account sparingly. Nothing suspicious, except that one time she'd bail him out. No more large withdrawals. Well, nothing that would trigger alerts anyway. So, my next step was a GPS tracker. I ordered one online and had it shipped to my work, a small magnetic device roughly the size of a matchbox. I installed it on her car while she was sleeping one evening, stuck it right up under the rear bumper where no one would notice. The app on my phone would update her location every 5 minutes. Well, one afternoon, without saying anything to her, I monitored the GPS tracker all day. Started at 7 a.m. when she left for work. She was at the college for most of the day. Normal pattern. But then the GPS tracker ended up at the bowling alley at 2 p.m. She is usually still at the college by then. Students counted on her to be there around those hours for help. I drove my ass right over there. My heart was racing as I drove over there. Part of me hoped I was wrong. Maybe she was meeting a colleague. But I thought to myself, why would she meet a colleague at a bowling alley? My mind was everywhere. When I got to the bowling alley, her car was there. Her red Volkswagen was in the far corner of the lot. I wanted to try to sneak up on her, but something told me she wasn't alone. The way they were at the bowling alley that first time, the phone records, I knew what I was going to find, so I walked in. The bowling alley was quieter during the day. There were just a few retirees in lane 1. I stood by the entrance for a second, scanning the bowling alley. The sound of pins crashing echoed through the place. Then I saw them, lane 12, near the back. They were not bowling. That's when I pulled out my phone and took a few photos and a couple of videos. She was sitting in his lap, kissing him. His hands were in her hair. Her arms were around his neck, the same lips that kissed me goodbye this morning. I walked over while they were kissing. They didn't even see me, too wrapped up in each other. I just stood there while they kissed with my arms crossed, waiting. When they finished, she looked up and saw me and screamed. Not a little gasp or surprise, a full-throated scream that made everyone in the place turn around. She scrambled off his lap so fast she knocked over their drinks. A few people looked over. One of the workers came over and asked if everything was okay. Young kid, maybe 20, with the manager tag. Everything's fine, I told him. Then I walked out. Didn't run, didn't storm, just walked. She called my name once. I kept walking. Got into my truck and drove home. My phone started ringing before I even got out of the parking lot. Her number, I let it ring. Then his number, I let that ring too. Pulled into my driveway 20 minutes later. The evidence was all there on my phone. Photos, videos, phone records, bank statements, everything I would need. By the time she came home, I had packed a few of her things. 2 suitcases by the front door. She walked in around 5:30, eyes red from crying. Started talking before she even closed the door. Baby, please let me explain. I pointed a gun at her and told her to leave. Her eyes got wide. You're not seriously? Get out. This is my house too. Not anymore. You can't just kick me out. Watch me. She stood there for a moment, looking at me and the gun. It wasn't loaded, but she didn't know that. Where am I supposed to go? Not my problem. Can we at least talk about this? We're done talking. She picked up the suitcases, crying, looked back at me one more time, then left. I don't know where she was staying. Didn't care. Her problem now. But the next day, I filed for divorce. Went straight to the divorce attorney's office, laid out everything, the photos, the videos, the phone records, the bail money. I told my attorney that I don't know where she was staying, but she is usually at the college until at least 3 p.m. We can serve her there, he said. Perfect. My wife never called or texted or said she wanted to talk or work it out. Radio silence for 3 days. Frankly, I didn't want to. The betrayal was too deep. 9 years of marriage thrown away for what? For some guy she had to bail him out of jail? She was served divorce papers at the college, right in front of her department office. The process server told me later she just stood there holding the papers. Didn't say anything, didn't cry, just shook her head in acknowledgement. The waiting was the hardest part. 3 months of lawyers talking to lawyers, asset inventories, financial disclosures. During that time, she stayed away. I changed the locks anyway, installed security cameras, documented everything. 3 months later, we had the divorce hearing. She showed up in jeans and a sweater. It looked like she'd lost weight. Dark circles under her eyes. She didn't contest anything. When the judge asked if she wanted to dispute the asset division, she just shook her head. No, Your Honor. She told the judge she didn't want anything. I kept the house. She asked the judge if she could have at least a month to get the rest of her stuff from the house. The judge granted it. 30 days, he said. Thank you. She got to keep her car, the red Volkswagen I tracked to the bowling alley, her clothes. She kept about $1,000 from her personal account, but she had to pay back about $3,000. The judge ruled she'd misused the marital funds, the bail money, the cash withdrawals, the dinners with him while we were still married. All of it had to be repaid. She didn't argue, just shook her head. We walked out of the courthouse separately. She went left, I went right. Never looked back. 1 month after the hearing, she was officially moved out and out of my life. She came while I was at work, and I had a friend of mine at the house since I had already changed the locks. She took everything that was hers, left her wedding ring on the kitchen counter. No note, no goodbye, just a ring. I sold it the next day, used the money to repaint the bedroom. New color, new start. The house felt empty at first, but empty was better than betrayed. Empty was better than wondering where she was at 2:30 in the morning. Empty was something I could fix. Well, all I have to say, I'm glad that he didn't resort to violence at the end. That would have ended his freedom. Remember, if someone cheats on you, don't risk your freedom for them. They are not worth it. Let them go. OP later told me that his wife didn't qualify for alimony because in Texas, you need to be married for at least 10 years. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.